The burger joint near Naval Station Norfolk was nothing special, just greasy spoons and worn-out booths where sailors grabbed cheap meals between shifts. Behind the grill stood an old man with silver hair and tired eyes, his weathered hands flipping patties with mechanical precision. His name tag read simply Joe. Nobody knew his last name. Nobody cared. He was just the old guy who worked the late shift, silent and invisible, existing in the background of their young, loud lives. Before we continue this incredible story, I want to ask you something. Are you watching this alone right now, or is someone sitting next to you? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one, and I love knowing who's part of this journey. Now, let's see what happened that changed everything. On a Friday night, a group of 5 young sailors burst through the door, fresh from their first deployment, full of themselves and hungry. They were loud, cocky, wearing their uniforms like armor, feeling invincible the way only 20-year-olds can. "Hey, old man," one of them called out, his voice dripping with disrespect. "Make it quick. We got places to be." Joe nodded silently, his hands already moving across the grill. The sailors laughed among themselves, making jokes about the old man's age, wondering aloud why someone so ancient was still flipping burgers instead of enjoying retirement. "Probably couldn't hack it in the real Navy," one sailor said, loud enough for Joe to hear. "My grandpa's his age, and he's living in Florida playing golf. This guy's stuck here making minimum wage." They erupted in laughter, slapping the table, their youth blinding them to the quiet dignity of the man feeding them. Joe said nothing. He'd heard worse. He'd survived worse. Words couldn't touch him anymore, not after what he'd been through. The bell above the door chimed, and 3 older men walked in, all wearing Navy veteran caps from different eras. They spotted Joe immediately, and their faces transformed with recognition and something deeper, something like reverence. "Captain Mitchell?" one of them said, his voice barely a whisper. "Sir, is that really you?" Joe looked up, and for the first time that night, something flickered in his eyes. "Don't call me that anymore, son. That life's over. I'm just Joe now." But the veteran wasn't having it. He turned to the young sailors, his voice cutting through their laughter like a blade. "Do you know who that man is? Do you have any idea who's been making your food?" The sailors fell silent, confused. The veteran pointed at Joe, his hand shaking. "That's Captain Joseph Mitchell, call sign Ghost. He flew F-14 Tomcats off the USS Enterprise. In the Gulf War, his jet took enemy fire over Baghdad. Engine failure at 20,000 feet. Instead of ejecting and saving himself, he flew that burning aircraft away from a populated neighborhood, waited until the last possible second, until he was sure no civilians would be hurt. And if this moment just gave you chills, hit that like button right now, because what comes next is even more powerful. Another veteran stepped forward, tears in his eyes. He spent 2 years as a prisoner of war, tortured, starved, but he never broke. He protected his men's identities, took beatings meant for younger pilots, and when they finally came home, he carried the trauma so heavy that the Navy gave him the Distinguished Service Medal, the Silver Star, and the Purple Heart. The third veteran added, after he retired, his wife died of cancer. Lost his daughter in a car accident 3 years later. The man lost everything, but he never asked for help, never complained. Just kept moving forward. The young sailors sat frozen, their faces pale, shame washing over them like ice water. One of them stood up slowly, walked to the counter, and when he spoke, his voice cracked. "Sir, I'm sorry. We didn't know." "We had no right." Joe held up a hand, those same hands that had gripped a fighter jet's controls while fire consumed his aircraft, while missiles screamed past his canopy, while he made choices between his life and the lives of strangers below. "You didn't know because I didn't tell you." "That's not who I am anymore. I'm just a man trying to make it through each day." But the sailor shook his head. "No, sir, you're a hero. You're everything we're supposed to become." He turned to his friends. "We're supposed to be like him, and instead, we treated him like trash." One by one, the other sailors stood and approached the counter. They removed their caps, and the young man who'd been the cruelest spoke with tears streaming down his face. "Captain Mitchell, sir, would you allow us to buy your dinner tonight? Would you sit with us and let us learn from you? Joe looked at these young men, so similar to the pilots he'd once commanded, so full of potential beneath their arrogance. He saw himself in them decades ago, before war taught him what truly mattered. "I'll sit with you," he said quietly. "But only if you understand something. The uniform doesn't make you special. Your actions do. How you treat people when nobody's watching, that's who you really are." They sat together for 3 hours. Joe told them stories, not of glory, but of loss, of sacrifice, of the weight of command and the cost of survival. He told them about the night he woke up screaming, about the therapy he couldn't afford, about choosing this job because the routine kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. The sailors listened, really listened, and when they finally left, each one shook his hand with genuine respect. The oldest veteran stayed behind. "You could have any job you wanted, Ghost. Why here?" Joe smiled, small and sad. "Because nobody expects anything from me here. I can just be Joe, the burger guy. Some days, that's all I can handle." The veteran nodded, understanding in a way only another warrior could. "You're still fighting, aren't you?" Joe turned back to his grill. "Every single day. The story reminds us that heroes walk among us, often invisible, carrying burdens we cannot imagine. If this touched your heart, if you believe in honoring those who gave everything, subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that respect is earned, not given. Comment below and tell me how this made you feel. Let's build a community that sees the heroes others overlook. Thank you for watching, and remember, everyone has a story worth hearing.